in case I have trouble.
All right, welcome everyone. The YouTube stream is starting, but we're all here on time and pumped up.
In case
So, Ernest, the rageology movement has begun, and we'll talk about how we can datacrise it, if that's a verb, or if there's a better verb. Hopefully, we'll come up with one. So, why don't you just give us the backstory of what's been happening the last month or so?
oh, I was well, let me see if I can take over this thing here, share my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. Wait, all right. So I have been uh, uh, working on messaging that Datocracy for people. I've been researching other things. Um, and yeah, it's and listening to the news. It's very motivating and galvanizing to have something that uh, I believe could really help society um, avoid all the ills that we have right now. Democracy, as good as it is it's not as strong as we thought it should be. So not only us, but other people, other companies are looking for systems to take advantage of technology to give people more uh, influence over their government and to help them make decisions as a community. So, so Tom, I don't know if Ernie was copied in this email, but I asked Tom, hey, what is the MVP for Datocracy? And he said, well, maybe something that we can use in a town or a city. And I was working on some scenarios, but it was just a group of people that wanted to go on vacation and they wanted to kind of automate uh, the activities. But that, so I had that very simple thing, and what Tom wanted is kind of complicated. We're not ready for that. So, what to do? Well, we have to make uh, what can we tackle now? What is the most important problem? The most important problem is to figure out if we can really uh, compute or process concepts, uh, because that's the core of the problem that the process aim want to solve. To put people and their value system uh, against, well, not against, but put them together with, let's say, proposals, ideas, and based on their values, their code, and the attributes of the proposals, uh, the system can pre-populate their selections. They're not going to vote for them. They can say, hey, according to your code, you'll be up for this thing or not. Um, so people wouldn't have to like uh, take time and go to vote or go to whatever system we have now for people to choose to decide on something. And right now, it's we decide on people, and then the people they don't necessarily uh, do what people want them to do. So that Datocracy, people themselves decide on proposals. You don't support people, you support ideas and proposals. So this is what Tom's original idea is, that you need elections, you need politicians. All you need to do is um, state your values, and you state the attributes of proposals, and together um, we can streamline the process of people deciding, making decisions in community, not just individuals, but the whole community make the decision. So we have to do that. So our next idea is to use our Ragers community to test the Datocracy, to to help us build it, to give us feedback, so that we have the points of view of real people, not just what we imagine in our heads. And the thing that got me really motivated is that the Datocracy can help to make patriarchy obsolete, or at least, put it down, take power away from these billionaire pros, and make politicians a thing of the past. Okay. Writers can be a valuable resource because they can contribute ideas, give us requirements and constraints and success factors for whatever we offer as the first thing that they can touch. Hopefully you.
Could you at least define what you mean by ragers?
Oh, sorry, Ragers. So a couple of months I started this Substack blog called Rage Against Patriarchy. I started that before the election, I think, but it got really strong after the election because I was so confused. Like, why would women vote for this guy with all his baggage? So I felt not happy. I felt really enraged, and I felt that I could put that in writing. And I wrote a couple of articles. I have others on draft form. And the first one, I thought it was innovative. It intermixed music in the text. So each section has an idea, and then the songs that I put in there exemplify that. And I think the songs are great. And I've had people have read that and have been subscribing to the blog, so I think it did its job well. So
The ragers are the members of your Substack or mailing list.
Yes, correct. Yeah, we rage for we rage with hope. It's not just to be mad. It's just we are mad, but we hope for something better in the future. Okay.
And just so I know, is this a mailing list where you can directly email people, or do you have to post on the Substack and wait for them to comment in order to find out anything about them?
Both. I have been doing direct mailings like once a week for the past couple of weeks.
Okay, so you have an actual mailing list as well, not just the Substack.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Plus, we also have the Telegram groups. I have a channel and also a group.
Do we have that? Is it actually something someone can find and join?
Yes,
You got that working? Okay, good.
You have to give them a URL, and
Okay.
it has to be available. So yeah, it's a thing.
Okay.
So anyway, they have that, and we also have the Datocracy one. So regulars have access to four things: the both the Datocracy and the Rage, uh, raging for Rage against patriarchy groups, and the corresponding channels in Telegram. So we'll see how that goes.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Continuing. So yeah, having these people help with the designing and implementing the Datocracy will be great, and they will serve as system experts. Once they help us to once we all help to develop something that we all they're happy with, then they can share with their friends. And they can talk to them about how it works. So we will have advocates that know the system. They know their audience because it's their friends. So it will be a great way to spread the news. So let's talk about the seed. The seed aims to be a proof of concept, to see how well can we process concepts in a way that is transparent. Like we hear about AI these days. Everything is AI. I can't believe how much everything is AI. It's like it's but if you look at what these companies are really doing, they are gathering all kinds of information, and they're using it in some cases against people. And they start with good intentions. Open AI, open source, and everything is free and nice. They changed that, and we have a Meta that provided a free model, but it's not that open source. It's not what you and I know as open source. Meta thinks something different. So it's like these companies have ulterior motives when it comes to AI. And if you throw AI at something like this to help people make decisions, then how can you trust that some entity is not coercing the system? So just like when it comes to voting, you always have paper ballots. When it comes to these types of systems, which have something akin to paper, in our case, it will be logs and having procedures listed, not some obscure algorithm, but actually instructions that can be understood by people. That way, if they have doubts, they can follow the instructions, and they should come up with the same results as the software would do. So if we can encode this knowledge in software structures, uh, we can have systems that giving a specific knowledge, subject of knowledge, we can mechanize the decisions we recommend it. Instead of opinions, so I'm conservative, I'm progressive, therefore I judge. Depending on their political views, they can make extremely different decisions. And if we have the same law, how how can that be? But that's our normal system. Depending on the judge you get, you get some particular results. We can see that in Florida. Um, there's this judge who essentially was a puppet of Trump, and she was doing whatever he was asking about. But she's supposed to be a representative of the law, but she was doing a terrible, terrible job at that. So just like we can use calculators to make sure that our results are correct, if we have something similar when it comes to concepts, that will be, I think it will be great advance because you can leave some of the things to be computed by software, but you can always trust it, right? Can We can't just say, hey, let's throw AI at that because, like I said, AI is it might be dark, but I see it as a tool of oppression for these companies. That's why they're throwing all kinds of money at it. It's like billions. Some people are talking about trillions. The OpenAI CEO is like, yeah, let's throw all kinds of money at this thing.
I'm starting to lose the narrative thread, Ernest.
Oh yeah, yeah. Anyway, um, yeah, processing concepts uh, in a transparent way would will help people to trust the system, and the seed is the proof of concept of that. Okay, I think it could take 6 months to create this proof of concept. We'll see. We'll have a rudimentary interface. It's not going to be a super GUI app. It's just with the basic, the most basic thing to just prove the that we can process concepts with software. Requirements is to be really simple. Can we use that if we have two concepts, can we determine whether they are similar, whether they support each other, or whether they are in contradiction? And that's the basic thing. Something even more capable is to be able to extend the subjects that the system can handle by feeding it like libraries of knowledge that is encoded this way, so that like people can consult libraries to gain knowledge. The system could do the same thing, but this knowledge will be created by people, not an AI system that you know works up all this info and then may or may not be helpful. But it's actually things that people develop. So just like people have, use pens instead of chisels to write information in a more convenient way, we can use the tools that we have, phones and laptops, to do the same thing, but in a way that is more trustworthy than what we have right now. Constraints is less, for now, it's just text concepts, no pictures or sounds. That's where AI systems help or are more capable in that regard. But when it comes to the basics, text is easier to tackle, but also easier for people to confirm. Engineer myself, I'm not a knowledge expert. I dabble in it and do some research, and I've written some code, but that still could be complicated. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm giving myself 6 months to come up with something uh, uh, that works or not. We'll see if maybe it's impossible what I'm talking about. And we're going to, this prototype, it will be just for us three. So it could be a really simple app, POSIX app, um, a command line tool type thing uh, that you can use to manipulate concepts. Success factors is, so the architecture allow us to uh, encode, or what is the word that Ernest says?
Articulate.
Articulate concepts into a form that is uh, processable by software. And something that is important also is for the system to say, hey, I do not have enough info and knowledge to process these concepts. So, it's where we have hallucinations now with these AI systems. If we can have something really structured, and the system is looking at something medical, but it has no knowledge of these things, it should say, I lack the knowledge to help in this thing. That's also how people trust the system, because hey, and he knows that he doesn't know anything about medicine or whatever. So in conclusion, working on this seed will working on this prototype called seed will help us to learn if we can really process concepts with mechanically without the benefit and the drawbacks of AI. As people trust the system, we can maybe introduce in specific areas AI, just like people have, spell checkers and that use AI, and it's helpful, but it doesn't interfere with the actual knowledge. It's not manipulating people, like companies like Meta like to do. That's it.
Okay. So first, yes, bravo, bravo. Like, this is amazing. First of all, incredibly concise and very concrete, and building on all the work you've put in over the last, I've really been, I have to say, your initial reaction to Trump, it seems I definitely felt the rage, and it's really impressive the way that you turned that into hope, and that you're really taking concrete actions. I think I have some thoughts. Let me share and leave some room for Tom to react first before I make any suggestions.
Okay.
Only one
Tom?
thing. I have a feeling like um, many of the LLM AI systems, which can read in things like legal proposals and our personal goals, could be used as is. That is, generating our own app, our own system, is not necessary. And that would just, there was, let's not, because we happen to have a software background, let's not get into the business of generating apps when I suspect that the LLMs would allow us to experiment and seed things. That's all.
Yeah, I'd like to go one step simpler than that, Ernest. I think
Mhm.
we should figure out how to do this with like pencil and paper first in a really, really simple case,
Mm-hmm.
and try it out where you be the ghost in the machine, asking the prompts before you write a single line of code, write out the algorithm, and let's just try it.
Yeah.
And I think what you should, the thing that I really want is, we call this the minimum viable demo,
Mm-hmm.
right? What is the, and I think that in this case, the question is, can we use the system to make a decision that we feel actually honors our values? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That feels like the thing that, like, hey, we let's assume that we have decided we need to make a decision about X, and what are the inputs, and then what is the output, and do we feel like the outputs match the inputs? A really
Mm-hmm.
simple thing.
Yeah.
So,
I've been
uh,
reading about requirements, and there's a book called Sweet Book. It's a book by
yeah,
you know what it is? It's system engineers get together, and every once in a while they put out this book that talks about how to do system architecture and requirements. So I've been reading that, and I've been reading Tom's uh, competitive what is it? Competitive engineering book. And in that sweet book, they mentioned Tom. There's a part when it comes to building requirements. They mentioned language, and they mentioned him by name. So it's
Yeah.
pretty nice.
Right. So yeah, I mean, so think because the I don't want to have to spend 2 hours typing in everything into some formal knowledge hierarchy.
Mm.
Right. So figuring out what is the you want to find something, actually, even something trivial would be a good place to start. Is if we can figure out that at least it is was it an idea is not a design is not a prototype is not a product, is to somewhere between idea and design is having like what is the thing so assuming you have this command line tool, uh how do you imagine a session with it working?
Um, it's just like your graphic, just like what is it? Like the editor, Vi
Like
or
VI. So
yeah,
the
yeah.
editor
It's
has no interaction, doesn't give you any feedback. You just type into it.
well, this one will have to give you feedback. Like
Right. Well, so then that's so.
oh,
But so that is it a solo thing? Is it a group thing? Is it an
and
interview?
I
What's the?
for the product it will be a solo thing.
But you said it was for the three of us. I assume that means so we can make a group decision, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I was thinking like, okay, you have this program. I send you a copy of it. You play with it.
So,
Uh,
but what does playing with it mean? Are you asking me a question and I'm writing responses? Am I putting out a position? Like, what is the thing that I'm doing?
the main thing is to enter a concept, a sentence, and having the program decompose it into, subject and verb and all that. So at least at the structure level to know, hey, this is a sentence and it has this subject and this adjective. That's the lowest thing that we have to do. Like
Okay, so
because
let's take a step there. I'm pretty sure there's prior art for that,
yes.
right? And so to Tom's point, like, okay, I can get that you're allergic to AI, and we'll just accept that as a constraint for right now. But there's lots of people who have built knowledge systems. There's lots of people who built natural language parsing systems. And I think the really important thing is we need to check is that and in order to not waste 6 months, we should test the concept that is unique to us first,
Mhm.
even if we have to cheat on all the other things. Like, I know you don't want to use Facebook and you don't want to use closed platforms, blah, blah, blah. But like, we said, like, when you got to get a word out, you post it on Facebook because that's where everybody is. All right. You
Mhm.
don't wait 6 months to build your own new architecture before you post it. So, what is the core novel dynamic that you think that you think Datocracy needs to do? The DMAC. What is the key? Like, if you're writing a patent, what is the
Mhm.
thing you would patent as the unique novel insight that the Datocracy machine has to be able to do?
It tell you whether two concepts are different, supportive or contradictory. That's
Okay,
the
so let's talk about what's the current best practice for doing this. And I think your homework assignment is to probably read up about value cards. So this was a project that Joe Edelman did, which he's done with ChatGPT, but before that, he did it with actual playing cards. And he tried to come up with a set of things like, you're faced with a situation. I think I made you try and do this once, and they brought up abortion, you got triggered, and you probably didn't get very far, right? But
yeah.
the process especially if we can turn it into cards, would be useful, because the is that, okay, people say, I don't like this. Well, why? Or I think you should do X because of Y. Okay, explain why. What are the values?
Mm-hmm.
Why there? It's like, okay, now can we generalize from that specific value that you pursue? Like, I think women should control their bodies. That's a very concrete value you have. It's like, okay, is that related to a more general value? Yes, every human being has unique value. It's like, okay, that's a general value that a lot of people would agree with. And
Mm-hmm.
you draw this value graph. And my hypothesis, which I'm happy to have falsified, is in order for this to work at all, you probably need something like a value graph, where you can take people's thoughts, beliefs, whatever, and and you can try to normalize them to some set of values. And I think there's two kinds of inputs. At least this is a hypothesis, right? Is if you can take people's beliefs and values and desires and interests and emotions and encode them in a value graph, and then you can take a proposal and compare that to the value graph, and people have, some overlapping in their value graphs and how they see these things. And then you can say, okay, of these three proposals, this one best matches the values of these people. Like, that to me seems like the core idea of datocracy,
Mm-hmm.
is being able to map, let's call it user preferences and concrete proposals onto a collective value graph.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that, okay? So the thing that I think we need to test is it possible at all to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second question, okay, if it's possible, then what's the best way to implement it? And to Tom's point, I think it's at least worth considering. Use whatever tools we can scrape up, whether it's a deck of value cards or an LLM, to just try and do it at all, to see if we can do it once. And then we can say, okay, this works, but I don't trust it because of the LLMs. There's like, okay, maybe which pieces do we not trust, right? Is it the because, like, the way that John used value cards was that he was trying to construct the value cards, and the idea. So, like, one plausible scenario, maybe this is something we can actually try out next month, is to pick up, is to say, okay, let's cheat for the first one, and we um, if let's it could be a human, using AI in the background, right? Because, like, I hate to type out everything. I'm getting lazy like Tom, because I'm prefer to have the AI do it for me. Um, and but go through the value cards thing and say, like, okay, and then have it summarize, like, okay, it sounds like Ernest's values are this, and this is how they're related to each other. And once it's done that work, then you validate it and say, yeah, that does reflect what I believe or I don't believe. I mean, that's what happens when we have a conversation, right? Do you want this? Did you mean this? I repeat it back to you. He goes, yeah, of course, that's what I meant. It's like, okay, good. You don't have to trust my process so much as you have to, like, validate the result.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could, and so, yeah, maybe that's actually the simplest thing to implement, is probably doing it with humans with AI augmentation in the background, so that we don't have to build a bunch of tools or trust the AI, but we don't have to do all the work manually.
Mm-hmm.
And um, is that sort of what you had in mind, Tom? I'm curious if you have a different way of thinking about prototyping this. You muted, yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. I had if I could get a little time slot here, I would like to do the best I can with an AI tool in 15 minutes to see what pops up.
I mean, like right now?
Yeah,
All right, I'll give you 15 minutes on the clock. Go for it.
okay. So first, let me get an AI system out here. Perplexity is fine. And next, I need to get the screen here. Let's see. There it is. Share, maybe. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Oh, oh. And 36. Okay. Now, okay. First, we're going to have an area of um, uh, um, of laws as far as we can get there, and I'm thinking of international laws like United Nations laws and agreements and things like that. And then I'm going to ask Ernest to give me one value he would like to focus on in deciding which law would be the best one. Could
Does
you
that make
name
sense to you, Ernest? Or you
one
have some
So
value?
questions?
you're gonna give me a law or some situation?
Give me a value. Just it's just anything will do, but if it interests you, even so much the better.
Sorry, what are you trying to prove? Because I think I lost the context.
I'm trying to prove, well, if you give me a value and I'll start working with it, I'm trying to prove that if we know the values, we can make choices amongst laws.
When you say choices amongst law, do you mean like I think that's where I got confused. Is that like there's a situation and there's several possible laws that could be passed to
That's right.
address it?
That's right.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
right.
From okay, so
Yeah,
start with the
I'm trying to do.
situation, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to do
Okay,
a quick simulation to prove
sure.
cause here. Okay, so Ernest, are you ready to give me a value? If it just blurt out a word.
Sorry, but
Uh,
there's no context. What's
The context is international laws,
okay,
like United Nations
and,
stuff.
okay, I'm
uh,
confused. Ernest, are you clear on what he wants?
Actually, Ernie, if you, I could
Yeah.
have almost finished this in the time takes to answer questions, and you would see it. So
okay.
relax. Let me
How
do it.
about border sovereignty?
Border sovereignty.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, my value is border sovereignty. Um, please um, uh, uh, decompose this into 10 sub values and uh, then rate 10 international laws like EU, UN, WTO um, uh, uh, on an impact estimation table to show which laws are best for my border values. Okay. So first thing I did was I took the concept of border sovereignty and I asked it to give me a little bit more detail of the kinds of values or concepts that might come into play. It's just a richer picture. I could have skipped that step. And then I said, okay, uh, given those
Could you
10
collapse the
things there.
sidebar so we get a little more screen space
Uh,
in the upper left drawer thing? The
upper
little
left.
arrow next to the word perplexity in the upper left. I think
Oh,
if you
sorry.
collapse,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't even know about that. Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, we'd see the whole picture here, but we can print it out to everybody. Oh, damn. Uh, okay. Uh,
You're a big fan of AI, but you haven't afforded to pay for any paid plans that will save your state.
yeah. Uh,
You're
yeah. I wish
reinforcing Ernest's distrust of AI.
yeah. Okay. I I
My
don't.
value is border. There it is in the library.
Uh, yes. Thanks. Okay. So, okay, so here we have an impact estimation table where I've just asked it to value it somehow. We can get more specific about that if we want to, but the point is I have a number of international laws, which is picked from its library, not such a bad set, and I have the 10 concerns, okay, and then it has magically valued these. By the way, we can ask for detail. How did it value? How did it arrive at that very easily, and it'll give it to us. And I might even just do that. But now we already, it has some comment on this, and I need to move a little window out there and get rid of this. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to now say, which law uh, should I vote for my values' sake, and explain in detail why? Okay. Okay. Uh, okay. The UN Charter, it says, is the law I should vote for. And it gives me the reasons here. We can all look at this afterwards. I'm just doing a quick 15-minute experiment, and but it gives quite detailed reasoning about why we should cast our vote there. We can disagree with it. We can ask for a different angle on it, different information. But long story short, I would say I just did it. I did Datocracy in practice on a simple experiment.
Mm.
I'll send
Yeah,
you a copy of that.
yeah. So
Okay, so
you
first of all, okay, yeah, go ahead, Ernest. Yeah.
so you get I you have two words. What border sovereignty? Um, you said to speed out whatever comes to. So is I guess that's a value in that it could be just a subject. Hey, let's talk about border sovereignty, or it could be, hey, as a country, I don't want anybody to invade my territory, and
Mhm.
let's have laws that help me with that.
That might be control over entry and exit, just sort of responding to
So
you,
it's
and
like
most
a set
most
of
of those other things actually, yeah.
mhm. So it's like
Now,
related subjects,
but we
and
have control over this, Ernest. I mean,
mm,
I did it quickly, but
yeah,
I can take a look at that and say I want to edit it in a certain direction, and you can do that. You're not stuck with what it gives you, but it gives you pretty good ideas that you wouldn't probably think of yourself in the first hour of thinking about it.
mm,
And it can quantify those things with scales of measure and language and stuff. I do this all the time, by the way, for the
mm,
last 2 years.
yeah, mm,
And the point is, these could represent different legal. I mean, it could even just be one of these, and it says, let's say it was just the UN Charter and we had to say yes or no to it, we could ask, was it worth voting for at all, or should we vote against, or you have suggestions for amendment? I believe I have demonstrated Datocracy's main principles within my 15 minutes.
Okay, well, it's only 10 minutes, so congratulations. Let me just make sure I understand what you demonstrated then.
Right.
Is that the idea is that someone can verbalize a value.
Yes.
And then the way that we can understand that value better is by decomposing it into sub-values.
Well, one possible way is to decompose it. In addition, you could have instead or also quantify. So this is language, but
but don't you have to quantify it?
We can quantify everything here. I can ask for it to quantify it right now and get it out with scales of measure.
So let me just take a moment here, because this is something that always confuses me. Is if I quantify it something, it has to be against other terms or other words. And what is the thing that's being quantified against?
I'm not sure what you mean by against.
Right, I understand. And this is where we have a little bit of a communication gap.
What if I just do it in 1 minute?
Okay, I'll give you a minute. You've got time. Show me what you mean.
Okay, sure. Please specify all sub-values with a well-defined scale of measure and a goal level on a table. Okay, so. And here it is, territorial integrity, and it's this is a bit crude, but okay, violations, control, percentage of border crossings. It's trying to quantify each one of these. And it's
Right.
also trying to suggest a goal level that would be appropriate. Now, again, you don't have to like it or love it, but the point is it's done it. It's as good as you would have done within an hour, and we can tailor it any direction we want with any level of quality or depth or variation.
Right. So I need to take a moment to process this. Ernest, did you have any questions or comments or reactions?
Not right now.
Okay. So here's the thing, Tom. This is impressive. Okay. But I feel like you're still not hearing the, okay, let me frame this as an anxiety or a concern. It's like, okay, we can take anything someone says, we can decompose it into, we can take a small set of words. And let me put it this way. I was a management consultant. And when they trained me, they said, like, okay, you give it a big question, you break it into smaller questions, you make up the answers to the smaller questions, and hopefully your errors are random. So when you combine them back into the big answer, it's roughly correct. That was literally what we did as, recent graduates who were hired to advise these big companies on stuff. And it's not a bad strategy, because it is true that lots of small errors tend to randomly cancel. But you occasionally get systematic errors, which are completely unbounded. And the thing that I see you doing, which is powerful, and I'm just going to talk about what you did rather than what you meant, is you took a few words, you decomposed them into other words, and then you matched those words, you quantified them against a hopefully observable metric, right? And then you had a sample set of alternatives, let's just use that term, that you could then rate against that. And to the extent that system, and so this says, like, okay, I have a vague idea about something I care about. Let me make it more precise by decomposing it into more precise terms, and then match those precise terms to something quantifiable. and then use that to rate specific alternatives.
Yes, you got
Okay.
it.
Okay, good. So what I see that as is a useful tool for clarifying my own thinking in a context of, you know, so I think, first of all, it feels to me that this is backwards, is my first reaction. It's like, well, wait, what I actually care about is if you're asking about, which, you said international laws, this turned out to being really international organizations based on their charters. And if the question was, okay, which international organization's charter most reflects my values, then that's a very different question, because I could care way more about human rights than about border sovereignty.
Again, we can adjust all of this to taste. I was
Well,
just doing the quick
okay,
demo.
okay, right. Okay, so good. All right, so let's call this prototype 1. Okay, so
Right.
let me refine this on prototype 2 and see if this is still consistent with what you meant. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
is that we pick a problem domain. So and maybe this is what we do next time, right? Is we pick a problem domain, and then we because I think this is how we probably would, and I would actually suggest this work in practice, is we pick a problem domain, we generate a plausible set of alternatives, and then rather than us arguing directly about the alternatives, we try to decompose our beliefs into a set of values. And then I guess the simplest thing is that to see if maybe that's enough, right? If we can pick a suitably contentious topic, suitably meaning, it's emotional enough that we actually care, but not so emotional that we can't hear each other. And we can say, like, because if we have a thing, it's like, okay, if we all agree on one of the alternatives without having to think about it, then there's no interesting dynamics. But if we say, oh, it's actually hard for us to agree, and it's hard for us to understand why we disagree, then maybe going through an exercise like this would tell us where the disagreements are and what it would take to resolve them. Does that feel like, does prototype 2 feel like that would tell us something interesting about data? Like, this just tells me something interesting about LLMs and how they can generate data. It hasn't yet convinced me. It tells me something about how we resolve disagreement, but I'm willing to open the possibility that it might.
Again, for every concern you can express, I am guessing there's a 99% chance we can do something to address that concern immediately with the LLM.
Well, okay, and go, Ernest.
How about this? I was thinking, let's make it a little simple, but not too simple. Let's say you're a parent, you have a 5-year-old, and you are dealing with this 5-year-old. So you have to use the language.
It's too hypothetical for me, Ernest.
Hmm?
I mean, like let's pick an actual thing. Like, let's say we want Datocracy to take a position on, okay, Gaza scripts to incendiary. Maybe something that's mildly but not viscerally personal, like the Ukraine war. Is that the three of us want to reach a consensus statement on what we think would be a reasonable solution to the Ukraine war. That too emotional, or
I'm up for that.
Right? And then we have to say, like, okay, and we want to do this in real time, maybe next month, is because God knows where the situation is going to be. I doubt it will be fully resolved, but who knows? Or even if it is, we could take a position on the resolution of the proposal. And Tom, if you don't really care, I have a paid account on ChatGPT, so it actually just saves my stuff, so I could do the AI running for you. But whatever. I guess we figured out how to get Perplexity to work here. And so, right. So the main thing is that I want to see if we can use it to solve a real, if somewhat contrived problem. Like, does doing any of this help the three of us reach agreement? And does using the AI to facilitate the articulations of what things mean, do we go like, oh yeah, that totally gets me, or oh no, you're just infuriating me by making me, pinning me down to boxes that I don't like? And I can imagine either of those happening, and that'll be curious to see. Um, and um, there's also the thing I've noticed in AI is is that it tends to make two mistakes. Either it over indexes on whoever spoke first and it does everything through that lens, or it totally ignores whatever went first and just takes whatever was said last. And that's where maybe that's a good way to use it for the next one, is we just use it as an interview assistant tool to help say, like, yeah, this captures my feelings in a quantified, rigorous basis. And then we create a new session and do it all over again for each of the three of us. And then we can compare notes and see if it helps us understand each other better.
Okay. I have a feeling like okay as first iteration idea, but if you want to both think about it and in a week's time come up with the formulation of what to do, I think we'll get a better formulation than we got right now.
Well, what we can do is we can feed this into the Fathom AI or paste the transcript in and ask it to say what would be a better way, and then we can react to it.
I like that too.
And then Ernest can say, no, I don't trust AI. This is what I remember. This is what I think we should do. And we'll run the John Henry, and where I've always ended up with this is what I call the littoral space between wet humans and dry machines. Is me arguing with the LLM makes me clearer about what I think than me just arguing with myself.
Yep.
It's just like you have to start somewhere.
Right.
Doesn't matter where.
Yeah. And as an intelligent rubber duck, because it'll have a lot of context and it can write faster. And it doesn't get upset at me when I tell it it's an idiot. And even better, I can stop and start over from scratch, and it won't remember what happened the last time, which is impossible to do with humans, no matter how much I try. So, all right, I think I'll take the action item to feed the transcript into something and have it draft a proposed process for how to use AI. And I'll send that on an email and we can iterate. All right?
All right.
By the way, one of the many tricks you can pull these days, as you probably know, you can take the PDF copy of Datocracy and competitive engineering and feed them in directly just by as background information, so it understands Datocracy and understands competitive and it understands what an impact estimation table is.
Yeah. Well, you also just feed in our YouTube video. Yeah, but all right, cool. So yes, like I said, I will do draft one, and the rest of you are free to use whatever human and AI or alien extrasensory tools you have to create other proposals. And I guess that'll be the first thing we agree on using, Datocratic tools of various kinds, is what process will we try to use for our next session.
So you're going to send a proposal, and I'm going to use my values to come up with
refine, critique, compare, contrast. Right? You can either say, like, I like it, or I dislike it, or here's some changes, or here's a totally different proposal for how we're going to run our next meeting. Yeah. All right. I got to run. Thank you, gentlemen.